most people are going to live a life of regret, and that should not be you. And I also believe that Stephen Bartlett, the author, the Diary of a CEO, understands that people who live in regret, most often than not, they live in regret because of the little things that they could have done, not the big things. There are people who live in regret because of they didn't start a business, they did not find a partner, they didn't get to settle down for something. But most of the regret that even the rich people experience is the regret of not handling the small things. The big things matter. Starting the business, joining the club, joining the community, they all matter. But those little things are just as important. And like I said in the last episode, the one thing that makes them worse than the big things is that because they are so simple, we ignore them. So for example now, he gives an analogy of a plane. If a plane, right, going between London and the United States, right, if that plane is off by just 1 degree at any point in its calculation, for every 60 minutes, it will miss its destination a mile away for every 60 minutes. Just because it was off by 1 degree. To be very honest, the aeronautic space is a space of precision. But people might say, well, that's planes. But it's the same thing in life. There's a reason he brought this analogy here. Because most people don't realize that you should take your life as a journey. Literally, as a journey, the same way a plane takes its route as a journey. The moment you are going off by 1 degree in any area of your life, just know that that 1 degree is going to compound within days, within months, and within years. But it's got to a point where you look back and ask yourself, how did it get this bad? And I often realize that sometimes, right, these things mostly get bad when we begin to focus on just one area of life. Most especially when you tell people to set goals in one area of life. They have just one goal. I feel that is the biggest distraction. Because whether I like it or not, having this one goal system has always been a problem for most people. Because it makes them focus quite alright. Like I say, everybody assumes that focus has no problems. At some point, you have to focus on your life and zoom out. Let me give you an example. There's a reason a sniper has the sharpest focus in the military. Yet, he's given a scout beside him. Because the sniper can't see anything outside his scope. That's why the fact that he is so focused. At some point, if he has no scouts, he himself will have to scout and zoom out. Right? Because as a sniper, like I said, you have a very clear focus. But you see that place you're focused on, there are a lot of things outside of your focus you cannot see. So there's a reason and there's always a need for you to zoom out. So now if you design your life, not set goals, because I'm a very big advocate of people designing their lives. If you design your life, right, where you're asking yourself, what kind of relationship do I want to get? You see, why I'm saying this over and over again is because when you design your life, not just one area of your life, your full life, some things subconsciously, right? Subconsciously, you begin to do things that you will not have planned. If you did not design your life. So for example, if you design your life to have a healthy, loving relationship with your kids, even though you're busy, right? At some point, you will find those pocket moments to be with them. And I always tell guys that I feel just because of our generation before us focused on goals and everything, sometimes they really neglected quality time with their kids. And to be very honest, I think my dad was unstable, which I understood, right? And I feel like why this thing hits close to house is because, to be honest, I was not really close to some people, right? I was kind of like a lone child, and growing up, I don't exactly hate them for it, but just that bond is not there. So I'm saying this because you might want to wish to prioritize time with your kids, right? Even though you may not have like an hour for them, just be there for those little moments, right? It's not everything is not about money. Money is very important. I fully understand. The moment they can eat, they can have food on their back, they can feel comfortable. At some point, they're going to need you to show up as a person. And if you're somebody who has designed his life or who intends to design his life, to have the kids around him, then you will know how to orient yourself. And that is where the point begins. Because a lot of people are lost. A lot of people, like I said, they set goals. And the goals that they set does not account for the things they really care about. And this is why I tell people to learn the art of not giving a fuck. Because when you learn the art of not giving a fuck, people assume learning the art of not giving a fuck is you just telling everybody fuck you, fuck off, and go your way. No. Learning the art of not giving a fuck is not caring what other people think, you taking a paper and biro to write out the kind of life you want to live. And you begin to work your way back right from now. So for example, if you want a healthy relationship, right, and still you're a very busy person, you're a workaholic. Now if your partner calls you on the day you're busy, your response, because of how you have designed your life, your subconscious response, right, will be different from you when you did not have that goal, or you didn't have that agenda, your vision. So for example, it's, oh, hi honey, how are you doing? So I'm busy right now. Versus, I'm actually busy and I promise to give you a call an hour from now. And if you're a busy person, try to get maybe a personal assistant who can remind you, or set a reminder to call after the project. You see how having just that one goal, or having that vision, having that dream, allows you to act differently, rather than just having just one goal, where in your mind you feel like everything is taken care of. Remember, the plane misses by just 1 degree for every mile, but misses a mile for every 60 minutes it flies for. Think about it. There are reasons that some planes are visually hard for finish in mid-flight. They had to land in funny areas. Because why? It's either the instrument in the plane was not properly calibrated, was not accurately configured for that flight. Speaking of small increments, like if you know Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, that the organism, right, that gets to survive are the ones that are most fit to survive. He also mentions that, well, apart from the fact that they are the ones that are most fit to survive, they mostly have like little increments, right? They have little increments in terms of some animals need certain size of beaks, right? It's just the beaks that grow. It's not entirely the entire muscle masses that grow, right? And speaking of health and fitness, I may have said this again in the previous episode, and I have to remind you again because I have a lot of gym bros who outside the gym they have funny lifestyles, but it's not my job to correct them. It's just like, okay, bro, you are claiming you're healthy just because you come to the gym, but you forget that everything you do outside the gym is more important than everything you do inside the gym. And speaking of the little things, those little things like the food you eat, the sleep you have, right? Because most people underestimate sleep, and we live in hustle culture, where hustle culture tells you that if you're sleeping, you're probably doing something wrong. I get that, like I said, you can sacrifice a couple of sleep here and there, but you see that's the kind of sleep you have over 10 years, right? If you zoom out, ask yourself, with the way I'm sleeping, if I'm to sleep for like this in the next 30 years, what do you think is going to happen to you? This was exactly what happened to me a couple of, I would say, months ago, when I realized that most of the illnesses are cured with proper sleep. Then you will zoom out and ask yourself, why am I risking all of these health problems just to get there and have such illnesses? So what I've discovered is, I've like I said, lifestyle design. Zoom back, look at what you can start doing right now to move you closer to that life, right? Like I always say, look at the small things. And one small thing I think I've discovered is the fact that an hour each towards my bedtime, or 90 minutes towards my bedtime, I completely cut off communications. Because communications, scrolling, doom scrolling, I completely cut them off. Why? Those are the things that would keep me awake. In the process, me having a very bad sleep. Those small things. And the irony is that I can always say these small things that we talk about, they always compound. Think about it, right? You see people who smoke a pack of cigarettes every day for 30 years, and all of a sudden they discover that they have some kind of illnesses. There are people who sit down. I'm saying this because I too, looking at the fact that I discovered this idea of lifestyle design. When I discovered this, I had to zoom out of my life, properly design the kind of life I want to live, and start having those activities, habits, behaviors, beliefs of those things that will support me right now. Same thing. And before I used to think, okay, fine, I'm at a phase in my life where, as a man in my 20s, I'm grading it out. I shouldn't talk to women. I shouldn't date women. I shouldn't even talk to them at all. But zooming out, I kind of discovered that women are essential, the kind of life that I want to live. So why am I avoiding them? I mean, I can avoid a marriage right now, looking at the life I want to design, but why am I avoiding talking to them? And since then, I've been finding it easier, right, to talk to them in the same context. I've been finding it better for ideas to just flow out of me, because talking to girls is a thing of you being present than you being calculative. So if you're with them, you're just flowing, you're vibing, you're being your authentic self, letting the ideas flow through you. And maybe that's one reason I prefer to not script my videos, to have the ideas in bullet points. Hopefully I touch each bullet points while speaking to you. So you ask yourself, what kind of life do you want to live? And think of how you can start implementing those things now. If you're somebody, right, who wants to have a healthy relationship, obviously you will know how you would orient yourself right now. And I like this thing, right? Speaking of lifestyle design, whenever I think about it, I remember this thing by Jordan Peterson, where he says, you cannot get what you don't aim at. You might get what you aim at, and your aim will keep getting better your aim will keep getting better the more you aim at it. And to circle back, to bring it back, I remember when I lost my train of thought there, and it happens. So let me see. Then, speaking of little increments, right? If you've probably heard of Kaizen, that is the Japanese philosophy of you slowly improving areas of your life. You see, people take Kaizen only for self-improvement. They never take Kaizen for relationships. They never take Kaizen for health. Because whether like it or not, if your health is not improving, if you think you really cannot maintain your health, you can only improve it, right? Because to be very honest, the body is going to deteriorate. The body is going to break down. But if you're not doing something actively to make it better, so like for example, you don't have to lift ridiculous weights, right? You don't have to lift ridiculous weights, but you have to eat good. Is that eating? I can say those small things, those rubbish you eat, those junk you eat, right? You may think, okay, fine, I eat junk once a day, bro. I'm super sorry. Just snap yourself out of that cognitive dissonance. Because to be very honest, I literally used to give excuses for bad habits. But these days, when bad habits are pointed out to me, I look for a way to rectify it. Hey, by the way, some bad habits, I still have my vices. I'm not here to claim to be God. But one thing I'll tell you for sure is, if you actively look in your life right now, look for those things that you do almost every single day. That will tell you where you're heading to in life. And maybe if you're familiar with the idea of second order consequences, I'm not sure. I think I made a video on that about second order consequences, and the fact that the things you do right now, right, they determine a lot in the future. For example, second order consequences goes like this. You have a project, right? You have a project coming very soon that needs your attention, or you have an exam coming on, and then you walk into a store, you see a very attractive girl. She says she's not based a locality. She's traveling. She just traveled in to see her cousin, and she'll be traveling out in about 2 weeks. You have an exam in 3 weeks, right? And you have an exam in a week. Take her number. Now you take her number. You feel driven or you feel dragged to text her, right? Now then, you text her. Finally, see people are exchanging conversation. Now you're distracted from the exam you have in a week. Mind you, she's leaving in 2 weeks, right? Now, you see, the first order consequence was taking her number. The second problem was you feeling bad of not texting her immediately. Now you're texting her. Now she's replying. She's giving the right energy. Now you're distracted. Now, come to the exam. You're not giving it your all, right? But if we are taking her number, which is okay, which is not a problem, right? Even if you are told her that, oh sorry, you might not be focused on this message because you have an exam, but you guarantee her that the moment you're done with the exam, you probably promise her a date or something. There's no lady that you want to talk to like that. I wouldn't understand. If she doesn't understand, she's not for you. And this is not some red pill ideology or something. I've noticed that if a woman really, really wants to be with you, she's going to want to do things that she's going to want you to do things that are in your favor. She's going to want to do things that are on your purpose. I know I've deviated from the topic today, but I felt like bringing it over and over again because I've caused myself slightly about the drift, and I'm grateful for the fact that having this idea at the back of my head of second order consequences, I've been able to zoom out and say nope, because it's those second order consequences that we don't see, right? That begins to snowball over time. The same thing, because one way I started taking my health serious when I was forced to take care of my dad in his sick bed about 3 times. So it made me realize that this thing we call health, and my dad, in my opinion, right, was doing everything healthy that he could. But zooming out, we realized that his lifestyle had things that needed to be fixed. He barely exercised. He sat down a lot. Now, I'm not going to throw my dad under the bus because whether I like it or not, I feel he was the best dad for me in the entire world. I'm not sure I've seen any dad that I preferred because I've not seen any other dad who would have walked me. And speaking of dads, to be very frank, a lot of people heavily underappreciate dads. That's because they kind of feel like the dad only does provision. If a dad's job is only to provide, have you ever wondered why rich single mothers, right? Most of the rich single mothers have problems raising their kids. They heavily underestimate dads in the home, but all of a sudden, whenever I see kids that have daddy problems, you will know. You will just know. And why it's crazy is because one of my guys pointed out to me that I have a lot of female friends who have daddy issues. It dawned on me that I kept on wondering how and why, right? Then I don't discuss that over this. No, fuck it. I discovered that a lot of the times those ladies are for some very strange reasons, they find it very comfortable around me. And I kept on wondering why. Because I'm not entirely sure if I'm doing anything to draw them towards me. I just feel like just the vibe or something. So I digress there again. The whole idea is that I don't know why I keep bringing my personal talk into this, but the whole idea is those little things in any area of your life, mostly in your relationship, right? For example, is you not calling or text. And me, I'm saying this because I'm breaking this right now. People that I'm talking with find it difficult, right? And well, one thing for sure I always say is that, right? One thing I always say is, you may not get all of me, you may not get part of me all of the time, right? But you get all of me part of the time. I feel that's where I compensate, right? I compensate for it. So what that means is, I'm texting you, I'm calling you, just to check in. But when I want to be with you, I'll spend hours. Like something with my cousins. We may not talk for like a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but when we speak, probably speak for about 2 to 4 hours, catching up on life and everything. So I feel like that quality time is what makes it actually interesting, right? So again, I digressed. Let me see if I touched on everything on my bullet points. Alright. So speaking of Tiger Woods' success was based on how obsessive he was and how much him and his coach actually focused on something. They focused on slowly improving, right? Slowly improving every aspect of his golf game. So he understood the idea that if you are slowly chasing perfection, at some point you will get so good, people will assume that, and which I feel like is where people try to become overnight success, which is a very serious problem. Tiger Woods spent decades molding the Tiger Woods that we all know. Yes, people want to get there in a couple of months. So I really feel like life is like a journey, right? It is one step in front of the other. It's not 2 steps in front of one. It's 1 step before the other. If you are in it for the longest, try to look for how you can always take care of the small things, how you can always make that little increment. And I'll leave you with the fact that, according to research, right, the thing that ends relationships the most is called contempt. Contempt is disrespect and disregard for the significant other. So, and that most likely comes because we have so much activities and so many big things happening in our lives that we completely ignore the other person. So if you made it this far, I'll tell you that you are somebody who takes himself very, very serious, who understands that yes, the big things are super important, starting a business is important, running the marathon is important, but those little things, most especially in your relationship, in your business, it could just be, in your business it could be checking out for people within your team, right? Because whether I like it or not, business and having employees is also like relationships that you have to nurture. You don't just treat it as professional. Try to know what's happening outside, inside their lives. I mean, to some extent, what they can tell you. Because what's happening inside their life tells you a lot of what they will bring into your work. So the little things is checking up on your guys, knowing what's happening in their personal life, looking for ways that if you can help, feel free to help, because that's something that, because you guys are a team, and those small things in their lives also matter. Because people in my team, from time to time, they need me for coaching, I coach them. it kind of works for them, and that gives me joy that the ideas I have in my head actually work. So I'll thank myself for that, and also thank them for implementing the advice they give to themselves. So if you made it this far, you take yourself very serious, and then if you really made it this far, there's somebody else you know out there that you can share this video with. Share with them, make them understand that it's the small things, the things that we ignore in life are the things that actually matter. The big things matter, but the small things are the little things that we ignore, because they sound small, they sound simple, they sound are things you can ignore, but trust me, they compound over time and they come to hit us in the future. So thank you very much. You made it this far again. Talk to you soon, and bye for now.